There he is.
There he is. What's happening?
How you doing, guys?
Good. Pleasure to
Oh,
talk to you.
All good in the hood. Well, let's get it going and we'll kick it off right away. Super
can I
excited to be
finish this
talking to
Hold on
Grammy
a second. Can
nominated
we
June.
can we hear him?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hello?
yeah, you should be able to hear
Okay.
me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I couldn't hear for a second. Sorry about that.
I just want to address you properly. So, who am I speaking with?
I'm Mitch over here. We've
Hey, Mitch.
we've interviewed before and actually came out to your show in not Place des Arts in Montreal like
All right.
2 years ago, 3 years ago.
That seems like a century ago.
It seems like a century ago.
Seems like
And
ages ago. There you go.
Jeremy there is managed by Barry, who was what's Barry's last name?
Barry Garber. Come on,
Barry
Mitch.
Garber.
You know Barry.
Yeah. So
Jeez. Yeah, Barry said you and Barry used to do a bunch of shows and stuff back in the day. He said he knows you very well. So
Barry, a promoter.
yeah, Barry Garber. You worked with Donald K. Donald forever, and
Okay. Yeah, Donald. Yeah, is Donald still around?
he's alive, but he's in poor health apparently. He's not doing that great, and apparently he's taking all of his stories to the grave with him. So that's always good.
probably a good for some people to to not be exposed, I guess. Anyway,
Yeah, he did a lot of shows in Montreal. I remember at the time.
Yeah.
He
No,
started booking me the first time I played in Montreal as a recording artist. It was, I think, a place called the In Concert. I think that's where he booked me. That
great.
was in old Montreal, I believe it was.
Nice. It was like an old school kind of club.
It was sort of a semi-quasi jazz club, but it was such a good gig because people were there really to listen. In the days of playing to a noisy club crowd and people dancing, all of a sudden people were sitting down listening to the set, and that was such a welcome change for us.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like music is kind of going back to that sense because it's like people are much more into the intimacy than the arena shows these days.
Well, there's nothing's really that objective with COVID around. No, nobody knows what's really.
Yeah, but even before that, I mean, people would look at it as a gimmick thing. But I mean, seeing your favorite artist up close in a small club versus being 200 feet away in an arena, I mean, people will pay premium dollar for that, depending on who it is.
I tell you, before COVID hit, I think the places we're playing were somewhere between like 300 to 500 seat clubs and 1,500 seat halls, and they're all equally intimate enough if you make them intimate. Of course, a hall is bigger, but still a 1,500 seat hall is intimate enough for a show that really projects out.
Yeah.
This kind of show with the kind of band I had with horns and all that really spoke outwardly, almost like an opera singer, singing to the last balcony.
Yeah, and I mean with advancements in sound, live sound and stuff. I mean, if you're playing Pro Tools and with the R verb cranked up on the mix bus, it'll sound like an arena anyway. So,
well, it really gets down to how people perform, because you can't get away. I mean, you can get away with stuff. Producers making records for artists these days that have vibe or whatever. It's really hard to tell whether an artist knows how to sing or not. And although there are some gimmicks that people are using live, more or less you can tell if a group can play and if an artist can sing. And I think that's what people, it's almost like going to see a death-defying, trapeze artist now to see a person sing live. Wow, you can really do it.
Well, it's like Mitch always says, before we used to go see concerts, and now we go see a show. It's all about the show. So.
Well, we changed the name. In the 70s, you went to a concert, and now you go to a show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, they're interchangeable because I don't say I put on a concert. I always say I put on a show. So it really comes down to when we tour, we have 10 people on the road.
Right.
We have a 7 or 8 piece band on stage. The feeling is, after all these years of touring, if you get off stage feeling like it's not happening, you're not doing your best, the band is not doing their best, you just don't want to do it anymore. But when you get off stage exhilarated, and you exhilarated the audience, and you sang your best, after 50 years of singing, you say, okay, well then a little bit longer, let's do it.
Yeah, no, totally. And especially, if you're British, it's a gig. It's not a show, Mitch. It's a gig.
Of course, of course.
Well, listen, I got to do a proper introduction here because we hit the ground running. More of a good thing. It's a re-release / part new album. It's off to a great start. It was #1 on Amazon before its official release this upcoming Friday on October 15th, which is really exciting. Grammy nominated, Juno Award winning, absolutely iconic Canuck. Welcome to the show, Mr. Gino Vannelli. There he is, everybody.
Never been called an iconic Canuck.
In fact, that's the name of your next album, Gino Vannelli, Iconic Canuck. It's going to be great. The artwork will be beautiful too.
Yep. Just a beaver and a Canadian flag right there.
It'll be perfect.
Throw a couple of loonies on the cover while you're at it.
So let's just quickly talk about the reissue. You put out part of these songs in 2009, and then you sort of sat there for 12 years. They stewed a bit, and you said, you know what? I got a few things I need to tinker with. I got a few new ideas to bring to the table. Tell me about that process.
No, it wasn't like that at all. Mitch.
No, okay.
No, since 2009, after 2009, we put out an album called Best and Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
I took my band into the studio and we redid some of the old hits, and it was sort of a remake of stuff from the 70s and 80s. And then after that, I worked for a few years on an album called Wilderness Road that I released 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And in speaking with Claude Villani, who's the president of SRG ILS Records, I think they're the third or fourth biggest now on Universal Records, or whatever, Universal. And he called me one day and he says, I really like that album, Good Things. I keep playing it every day. I said, well, what do you like about it? He said, the song that's on His Reasons were all the right reasons. And I said, well, if you like it so much, let's talk about re-releasing it, because by some chance it never got released in North America. He says, you're kidding. So I said, no, it never did. It just never happened. So we thought about it, and I said, how about I record 4 new tracks and I remaster it, and I edit a few parts that I think needed editing. So that's what we did. We remastered it, edited a few parts. I re-recorded 4 tracks, including a remake of a song called The River Must Flow from the Brother to Brother record.
Yeah.
It's coming out, and I'm very pleased with it. Of course, at the same time, I'm working on a brand new album now to be released next May, along with 3 web concerts.
Oh, wow. Well, let me ask you about making new music, because there are a lot of artists that I go see these days, and they're sort of playing the same set for the last 20 years, and they have no interest in making new music. What sort of keeps you motivated to put out new stuff? Why not just go play Black Cars and I Just Want to Stop and,
Well, I mean, there are some obvious reasons. The first reason is I'll be bored to death, and if you're bored to death, you just can't hit the notes anymore, because part of you is saying, why do it?
Right.
Why the plane ride? Why this hotel? Why the bad food? If I can't enjoy myself on the stage.
Why coach class on Spirit Airlines? What's not worth it.
That's the basic reason. But the real, I think that perhaps the more, let's just call it almost a religious reason, is that if you're born and raised, and if you adopted a sort of artisan mentality, you have this feeling, if I can't do it the way I really love doing it, I won't do it at all.
Right.
And I think it stands for everything outside of music as well, too. So my credo was to be able to do it so that I actually get goosebumps on stage, and that's why I take songs from the past and I kind of open them up, look what they're made of, and say, how about we mix that and then? How about we add a horn section? How about we scratch that and add this? And ever since I started doing that, probably 2007, 2008. A lot of people tell me that you really dispel a lot of audiences. They'll walk out on you and so on and so forth. But really, quite the opposite has happened, because I find a lot of people feel the same way I do. They want to hear the essence of the song, and they want to hear the spirit of the song, and they don't want it totally mangled, but they want to hear it updated to what would we do with the song if it was 2021.
Right.
That's why we still really like to tour. That's why a lot of people still come to our concerts.
Well, you know what? A lot of artists are doing that now. I mean, a great example
Whitesnake.
would be Whitesnake, and David Coverdale's gone in. They've been putting out these things called, Whitesnake Reimagined, and they're taking the original tracks and they're replacing the original drums with like updated drum samples and
Right.
remixing the
Right.
guitars, and it sounds like modern rock radio, and it still sounds super fresh. So I think that's awesome that you're doing that.
Yeah, I mean, when we do it live, I mean, just to add a horn section to some of the old songs like Night Walker and People I Belong to and whatever, really adds a new dimension, to the song itself, to the point where people want to re-record these songs again. I mean, Claude came to me the other day, so how about we redo a couple more songs on the Brother to Brother record that you're doing live? So, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm always writing. I'm always got new things, new songs I'm working on. I've got already 7 or 8 written for the next record called The Life I've Got.
Of course, back in the day, radio was incredibly important to an artist, MTV. In 2021, it's more and more turning into the Facebook and the Instagram and TikTok and stuff. As an artist, how are you adapting to the times and trying to reach your audience, but also reach a new one at the same time?
Well, really, the more things change, of course, the more they stay the same. It's really the pith and marrow of it is really content. The delivery system will always change. And I can bet you in 10 years from now, you look at Facebook or whatever we're talking through and say, yeah, boy, wasn't that those were the days. There's always going to be something. I mean, look at old radio, look at old TVs, the old Marconi TVs, black and white TVs. It's long ago, but not that long ago. And so that forever changes. But I don't know about you, but it may be 30 years old, but when you look at some of Ray Romano's performances on Everybody Loves Raymond, they're classic because he hits a nerve that is a universal nerve. And so it's that way when you're watching Casablanca, from 1942 or 44. So as far as I'm concerned, the delivery systems will always change and be updated. But just like a song will change maybe with its chords, with how you orchestrate it, how you arrange it, but the melody and the lyrics, you take a good song is a good song, and that's why people still gravitate towards some Beatles songs, Jerome Kern or Cole Porter or George Gershwin.
You mentioned that you're going to be working on a new record probably coming out next year, and you're going to do some web shows. How do you plan on doing that? You're going to get the whole band together on like a stage, on a set, and
my friend who does a lot of my mastering here, his name is Nick Moon, and he bought a building and he's turned the whole bottom floor into a place that we can do web concerts.
Oh, cool.
5-6 camera system and lights and all that. And it's really a cool place. And so we're going to do not only 2 or 3 shows there, but I plan to have guests and also being interviewed and interviewing some of my favorite people, whether they be people who are philosophers, poets, artists of any kind. And I'd like to also branch out into topics other than music too, that have something to do with the arts, something to do with culture that affects many musicians. Because I know a lot of writers, a lot of composers, read culturally pivotal stuff, and it affects how they write, what they write about, and what they sing about.
Let me just quickly ask you about Brother to Brother, because that's the one that sort of I would say changed the career, if I can phrase it that way.
Well, it was a bit of a jackknife in a sense.
Yeah.
But it all the roads led up to that, because from 1974 on, the albums kept on selling more and more and more, and then there was a decision to make. We were doing rather well, just having our own selective and also distilled audience. And so the question was posed to me, do you want to go mainstream?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure about it. And then when my brother Ross, showed me a song called I Just Want to Stop, I said, okay, let's go for it.
It's one of the greatest songs ever. And just by the way, for the Kiss geeks out there, Jimmy Haslett played bass on it, also played bass on some Kiss records. I just want to throw that out there. just gonna throw that out there because we always got to get a Kiss or a Mutt Lange reference in here. But
always.
You did seem to me, as the reluctant star? Because, as you go into the 80s, so this, I Just Want to Stop is huge. You go into the 80s, Black Cars is huge. Wild Horses is huge, but you didn't seem to want to be into the video thing and the much music, and you seem to pull away rather than jump in, feet into the fire. Talk to me about that.
It was an odd time for me, Mitch, because although part of me knew how to do it, and I enjoyed making the videos, I enjoyed recording. Um, I had started to study the theologies of the world. I started to get deep into the philosophies, the humanities. Went There was a Lutheran college near my house at the time in Southern California. Went back and studied minority literature, and I became deeply interested, in what makes people tick, and the questions: why we're here, where we're going, where do we come from, and that started really being my everyday thought process. So once you get on that kick, sometimes making music and being so wholly invested in it seemed a little silly, because I wanted answers to bigger questions. And it's only when I moved from Southern California to here in Oregon that I settled upon wanted to get back into the business in a different way.
Right.
And I started recording the stuff that was people would consider less mainstream, more esoteric, whatever. But then the joy came back for me.
Right.
Because I knew by the time Wild Horses and some of those other cuts were coming out, I was in my late 30s. I knew that the end of my pop career was just right at hand, and I just didn't want to chase that in my later years.
Did you hate the pop music though?
No, I just didn't have any particular affinity for it.
For it.
Never hated anything. It's just, if it doesn't kind of stir you,
right,
you just don't give your all to it. It's an
You're
amazing feeling what causes inspiration.
What was your path a little bit like Cat Stevens going over to Yusuf Islam? Was that sort of, you just sort of had this spiritual awakening and said, I got another path to follow?
With Cat, he chose
right,
a particular orthodoxy,
right,
and went for it. And although my path was much the same in the sense that I sought and sought and sought, I knew that at one point any one path is not my path.
Right.
And that I understood that there's so many great things that many paths have to offer. And that, not to say that I chose a cafeteria style spirituality, just to say that I thought there was so much to learn from so many cultures that to limit myself to one was to become, in a sense, what I never wanted to become. And that's so fundamental that I couldn't move or change or break out of my own fundamentalism.
Got it.
Because I look up to the stars and you look up to the sky, and there's nothing fundamental as far as ontologically or epistemologically about looking up to the universe. It's infinity is wide open. There are laws, there are principles, there are things we can follow that it can teach us.
Right.
But free will says, well, what will I do with it? So you're looking at the empty canvas. As long as you know what a right angle is, you can begin.
You can.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then. If I say to you, hey, Gino, Black Cars and Wild Horses for me in the 80s, growing up through high school, were some of the greatest songs that I heard on the radio, the greatest songs I saw in Much Music. Do you look at that and say, that's a great compliment? Or you go, poor you. You should be listening to something else.
I don't think I get that cynical about it,
Okay.
And I don't think I get that patronizing about it.
Okay.
I do look upon it, fondly, but as a moment in time. And it's fun to go back and check out my thought process, and play a few of the chords. Look what I used to do. And I remember the story behind Black Cars. I mean, I went to my friend Roy Freeland's house, and I said, I have a song called Black Cars, and I showed him a few lines. I said, what do you think the song is about? And he said, why don't you go to Hollywood Boulevard and sit on a bench there and watch people go by? It's probably going to hit you. And that's what I did. And I remember it was a very, very hot October day with Santa Ana winds were blowing, and the sun was shining bright. And there was this lady in a fake black fur coat with heavy white caked makeup on, heavy lipstick, dark red, crimson red lipstick. And she looked to be, I don't know, it's hard to tell. When you're in your early 30s, everyone looks old. But maybe she was in her 50s or 60s. And she had a kerchief on, much like Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard. And it really hit me that this was a very odd person. Like she had missed the boat, but insisted that it would come back and she'd be ready for it. And so she kept 2 days, 3 days that I went there, she would pass by all the time, maybe hoping to be discovered like Lana Turner at Rexall Drugstore, you know. But I went back home and I washed my car. I had a black Camaro Z28 at the time. And I thought to myself, no matter what I do, every time the sun beams on this side of the car, I can't quite get the fine lines out.
You see all the details. It's not good.
And kind of the ugly details. And I said, you know, that's exactly what she was avoiding. Her kerchief, she'd walk with her head down, trying to walk in the shade. I said, that's exactly it. She's my black car. And that's how it came about.
Wow.
Yeah, it's such a great song. I mean, growing up in the 80s and having much music. I mean, Jeremy, you're younger. You don't, but when you saw those videos and you heard those songs, and Gino and Bryan Adams and Gowan, what a great time.
Well, my much music was Shania Twain's Man, I Feel Like a Woman, and Backstreet Boys' Larger Than Life. So, same experience.
Yeah. Well, there's some good songs there. So I mean, don't knock it. Every era has its ups and downs,
Yeah.
The 70s, we had great artists, Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder, but we also had, I don't know, not to demean them, Brownsville Station or something, like that.
So hey, come on, Smoking in the Boys' Room is a great classic. You can't.
Motley Crue covered it. I mean, jeez. And speaking of don't knock it, Gino, I got to tell you, one of my favorite ever, somebody defending their fandom of an artist happened with your name getting dropped. Mitch and I were backstage at a concert one year. It was like some metal festival. And we were talking to the former drummer of the Scorpions, James Kotak. And I needed to name drop him because it's exactly who it was, and the story's amazing. Because we were standing there in the hotel afterwards. And we were talking about like some of our favorite artists. We're staying over from Montreal, this and that. He's like, oh, Gino Vannelli. Oh my God, I grew up on his music. I'm such a huge fan. He's the greatest. So inspiring to me in my music career. And the guy that we were standing next to started chuckling like, Gino Vannelli, what are you talking about? He got up and clacks the guy in the face and said, fuck you, don't you ever talk shit about Gino Vannelli. He's a fucking legend. And he was loaded, ready to go again. We're like, whoa. And it was the greatest moment. I was like, Gino Vannelli, damn.
Yeah, he's got some hardcore fans, I'm telling you.
Hardcore fans. And I will never forget that.
Yeah, that was in Maryland that happened. That was at the M3 when he,
That's where it was, yeah.
I feel like a damsel in a tower.
Yeah, I was shocked. I was like, holy crap. I just saw somebody put like fist to mouth over an artist that they're defending and they love. And I was like, that is awesome.
That is rock and roll. That's what it should be.
It's sort of the mantra, though, for many of the years that then people really kind of gravitate and I mean, look at what we do very, very fondly, and there are those who do not, vibrate with that sentiment at all, or are just not in the know.
Yeah.
And don't understand that kind of, admiration.
Yeah, and the love and the impact that you had, because imagine that you had such an impact on somebody that they were willing to get into a physical altercation to defend your honor.
And he hit his own band member, which I thought was...
Yeah.
Well, maybe the alcohol helped a little bit.
Maybe.
But musically speaking, on the next album, where are we going? Are we staying sort of in the jazz thing? Are we staying somewhere else? Are we doing another brother to brother? Where are we going in terms of music style?
Well, I tend to lean a little bit, although I have a lot of the songs written. In the end, depending upon what people feel about more of a good thing, I'll leave it a little bit open. I mean, although I keep writing every day and I have many, many songs, in fact, I have 2 or 3 records written. I still, what I'm going to record will depend a little bit upon what kind of acceptance the more of a good thing gets and what the singles do. We're working on our second video right now. The River Must Flow. I don't know if you saw the video, it turned out very, very nice. My brother Ross does videos. And we've just recorded the video for a song called Evermore. It's, I think, one of the better ballads I've written. And it's just about finished. I think it'll be finished by Friday.
Oh, that's great.
So I'll wait and see what people. I mean, once in a while I do read comments, what people feel, and so when the record is released, I'd like to read what people feel about the record, and it might inspire me to say, I think I'll stick with this direction or that direction.
And I want to wrap up on this, or my last question for you is this. What makes a successful song to you personally right now? Because you look at I Just Want to Stop, the Grammy nomination, it's on Billboard, blah, 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 black cars all over the place. What is successful for you now? Is it just, it's a feeling, it's spiritual? Where do you look at a song and go, yeah, that's good. That's how I mark success.
Some are known. W.H. Auden said that there was a certain poetry. Most of the poetry he wrote was rot, according to him, but he says every once in a while there's a gem. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. I don't exactly call it rot, but I think a lot of the stuff we do almost hits the mark, and once in a while you really do hit the mark. And even the greatest of writers, once in a while they really hit the mark. But you can't, it's a moving target. The mark is a moving target. So you do this all your life, and once in a while you poke at it and you miss it. It's kind of like trying to catch a fly.
Yeah, but you're right. It's true. What was a hit in 1976 is not a hit in 2021, and vice versa. And yeah.
And there are songs that are great songs that will never. There's that movie with Ricky Gervais, I think called Ghost Town. You ever see that?
Yeah.
There's a theme song that keeps on playing, and I can't remember the artist's name. And I thought for sure that song that was playing was so cool. I thought that would be a big song, and it wasn't. And I was very surprised, even writing the coattails of Ghost Town. So you never really know, but that's not to say that the song is not great. So I think your criteria has to be your own personal criteria. And for me, it's not so much success. It's listening to the songs and God, that song covers all the bases. I'm satisfied intellectually, and my gut is just kind of churning.
Yeah. Even if nobody hears it, you're like, I feel really good about that.
But there's a huge band out of the UK called Status Quo, and they have some of the greatest songs ever. And then you go into like Boston and you say Status Quo, and they go, who are you talking about? Yeah. And you're like, but the song is so who are you talking about? It's just weird. It's just weird.
Well, a lot of, like for instance, a lot of people know of the Grateful Dead, say they knew they were a big stadium group, so on and so forth. But, I read through Robert Hunter's lyrics, and he was really a good lyricist. And I think that's the undercurrent of the band, because without that, there's something credible about the band because of what's being said and how it's being said. And so many times with a group like Status Quo, when they're really good writers, the people who get it really get it because they hear it from the undercurrent up. And a lot of people don't bother with the undercurrent. They just look and see if it's a nice river that's flowing, and they don't like it, whatever.
Yep. And to speak to your Grateful Dead thing, I love Touch of Grey, and that's the only thing I know because it's the pop hit.
Yeah, no, if you buy Robert Hunter's book, and you read through all the lyrics that he's ever written for the Grateful Dead, you say, oh, I mean, many of them are better than the songs themselves, but you understand why people had an affinity for them because what was being said was so interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's funny. Whenever I think of Grateful Dead, I never think of lyrics. I always think of the musicianship.
No, you ought to read it. You ought to read through Robert Hunter's book. And it's quite good, and it really gives them validity. Because if that kind of music wouldn't have any kind of lyrical validity, there'd be a bass missing. And there really is a strong foundation to all that kind of dipsy doodling on top.
Right. I might have to go listen to the Grateful Dead now.
Touch of Grey, telling you, it's where you want to go.
Apparently don't go for apparently go for the other stuff.
I like the
Some
pop.
people have that. Elton John had that too. I mean, Bernie Taupin's lyrics were always good, always very solid, and that was really the basis, I think, of it was the or the silent basis of the success.
Hmm. Yeah, well, Mutt Lang wrote "Love is like a bomb, baby, come on, get it on." So it's hard to compete.
It's true. Do You Believe in Love? He also wrote that one. So, hey,
There you
come
go,
on.
Huey Lewis.
Huey
More
Lewis.
of a good thing coming out on October 15th. You can pre-order it now. Available wherever music is sold. You gonna do the vinyl, doing the CDs, doing the whole thing, or are you keeping this digital?
No, they're doing actually. They already ran out of CDs from the pre-order, so they're printing more CDs.
Great.
Yes.
Not doing the sticking away, staying away from the vinyl.
I don't know if they'll do the vinyl. I mean, personally, to tell you the truth, I mean, vinyl is not my favorite thing because I come from that era where my records would use out all the time, and or they'd skip, or they'd pop, or they'd
Or
tear,
they would warp because you didn't store them properly,
or
or the
like
heat
by the
would
time
melt them.
you get into the third cut, you have such denigration of sound, that by the time you get into the fifth cut, there's hardly any sound at all. So, I mean, I came from the era where it was frustrating to me. And when digital came out, I could see, well, now I can have consistency in sound. Now, a lot of people think digital is cold. Not if you record it right.
Thank you very much.
Very
I
true.
approve of that message because I grew up in the vinyl era, and when CDs came out in '83, I couldn't wait to throw the vinyl 8 tracks out the door. The
Yeah,
hiss and the pock and the crackle and
yeah, especially wow and flutter.
or if somebody was walking in the kitchen too heavily, it would bounce up. Just here comes the solo.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
great, mom's in the kitchen.
yeah, but come on, listen. It's all 180 gram super heavy duty vinyl these days. It's not jumping and bouncing around when you're walking. And
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a,
well,
it's a nostalgic piece, and
yeah,
it's great to have something to hold. It was always great to get an album, read the lyrics, look at the artwork, especially the double
yes,
covers.
yes, the
And
gatefolds. Yes,
yeah, and now it feels so archaic and feels so big and so unwieldy. It's like I can't even hold it.
yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
CDs, man, digital CDs are the best, and you can get. I mean, listen, Mutt Lang did Hysteria in 1987. It's the digital. It's perfect. You don't need
Yeah.
vinyl.
You have to really be aware of it and actually come from old school to know the difference. And when you're recording, they have all kinds of equipment today to really help you achieve that more analog, because our ears hear analog. That's why digital imitates analog.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so if you're really aware of that, having worked old school all my life, then you know when it sounds real or not.
Well, listen, I'm all about the mastered for iTunes, Spotify compression. So,
No, no, no.
98 bit rate, not 92, to 320 bit. No, I wanted 96 bit rate. Come on.
No, 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 no.
All
There
right.
you go.
Gino, this is so great to meet you this afternoon. So great to chat. We'll do this again when the new stuff comes out next year.
Absolutely.
All right. Nice talking to you guys.
Cheers.
See you later.
Bye.